You are inquisitive and desire to make sense of the world around you. You are here because you have empathy and compassion towards others. You are also here, I believe, not knowing any of you, because you seek to solve problems in your communities with creative, innovative solutions, and many of you are doing it already. A very good example of this is this year's host, Lincoln International School, where students from each grade give back to their communities in a variety of community service projects as volunteers. Another example is our visitors from the Colegio Maya of El Salvador, where students work on a number of programs with local community-based organizations, like projects collecting clothing and food for recovering drug addicts, raising money to construct hospitals and facilities for handicapped people, and building low-income housing. So, what are the skills that we attribute to a successful leader? Traditionally, we think of someone who is confident and assertive. We think of someone who's a visionary. And we think of someone who is adept at articulating their ideas and building consensus. But being a good leader and a successful leader is much more than this. A good leader must also know when to sit back and listen. A good leader knows when to admit his or her mistakes. A good leader takes care of his or her followers, his or her team. But most importantly, a good, successful leader knows when to follow. So, is cultivating leadership really easy? Not at all. But I want to come over some of the barriers. And a very obvious barrier to leadership, facing about half of the group in here, me included, is gender, especially in the world of international diplomacy, which has historically been a male-dominated domain. But as former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright once said, it used to be that women could only be involved in foreign policy by marrying a diplomat and then pouring tea on the offending ambassador's lap. But you're supposed to laugh. But I want you to know that women all around the world are steadily overcoming these barriers. The U.S. Foreign Service, my service, has seen a dramatic increase in the participation of female officers in recent years. In fact, I am currently among 50 other women in the United States Foreign Service who have risen to the rank of an ambassador. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. And of the 192 heads of state around the world, 20 of them are women, 5 of those coming from Central and Latin America. While both of these examples reflect significant progress, they also demonstrate overcoming barriers is not enough. You, need to help us refocus instead on removing those barriers. And it's not just women who are facing these barriers to success in leadership, but all members of all vulnerable, marginalized groups. So we need to think about how we can start to break down these barriers. First, the educators here, you can shape or begin to shape your students' consciousness and awareness from an early age of the injustices that arise from socioeconomic exclusion and or discrimination. I believe many of you are already doing this through the wide variety of extracurricular activities that are available to your students and activities like this weekend. But for those of you who are students, many of you will graduate from these very nice elite schools and will go on to great universities and become the leaders, political, economic, social, of your countries. And it'll behoove you to help take the opportunity to influence how policies are made and how scarce resources are spent. It's not just an opportunity, it's a responsibility. You have been very privileged and very fortunate to be in a place in the world where you are, and you need to pay it forward. In as leaders, therefore, I would encourage you to be fierce advocates. Fierce advocates for marginalized and vulnerable members of your communities. I would encourage you to seek new and innovative ways to break down barriers toward their full inclusion and participation in society. We need them. And in the words of futurist Joel Barker, I would encourage you to build bridges to help us move from where we are to where we want to be in today's world. In closing, I told you I'd keep it short. I would like to offer you a simple but wise quote from a courageous leader and tireless advocate for indigenous and human rights, Kichi leader and Nobel Prize winner from Guatemala, Dr. Rigoberta Menchú. She said, "Nosotros tenemos que ser una luz para los demás, no una oscuridad." Thank you very much.